I've been watching a lot of cool things recently, and I've got some reviews wrapped up in a rundown for you. All right, we're going to get started with some reviews on the run, some proper reviews on the run. It's good to be out of my basement for a bit to talk about things. But first, I have to clarify that in my Nintendo Switch 2 10 Things I Learned video, I talked about the fact that there are going to be downloads attached to the Switch 2 enhanced Switch 1 games. I know that's a confusing sentence, but you're going to get the Switch 1 game, and then reports early on were that there were going to be downloads attached to this card. And so you wouldn't get the whole game, the whole Switch 1 enhanced game for Switch 2. I don't know if I'm making it more clarifying by continuing to talk about it. It is very confusing, all of this. Well, today I got a new tweet sent to me and more stuff percolating on the internet from an outlet named Vooks, who spoke with an unnamed Nintendo professional based in Australia, and they confirmed that all of the Switch 1 content plus the enhanced content will be on the Switch 2 cards. Now, I don't know if that's fully official and fully confirmed by a named Nintendo spokesperson, so I tweeted that out. And I've also asked some friends at Nintendo to see what the deal is around that. And I think what it is that some games will include all of the Switch 1 content plus the enhanced content on the card, and some games will require you to download. And I don't know if they are ready to do the definitive statement on that. As soon as they do, I will try to work that into a video for you. But as it stands right now, it's looking pretty good that you're going to be able to get the whole Switch 1 game plus the enhanced content on the Switch 2 card. So stay tuned for more on that. Now, the other thing that came up around that is that the DLC affiliated with that Switch 1 game is not included in the Switch 2 enhanced version of the game. And I think Nintendo has to rethink that. I think they have to make these Switch 2 enhanced cards and games the definitive edition of these games. People don't want to then also buy more stuff if they spend for the upgrade. They should get the whole thing. And so hopefully that becomes the way that we go. But you know what? Every console launch is a mess. Doesn't matter who's doing it, who's running it, how it happens. It's like they're landing the plane as they're putting the plane together. It always is like that for every different hardware manufacturer. It's certainly the case this time with Nintendo because there are legitimately so many moving parts. The Switch comes apart, and it's all new technology. And so we have to give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt, although let's voice our criticisms and our concerns. Certainly we can raise a lot of concerns about the pricing that seems to be heading our way around Nintendo Switch 2 stuff, but presumably all video game content. All right, let's start talking about some of the things that I've been watching recently. I went to a screening of The Amateur, starring Rami Malek and Lawrence Fishburne. Katarina Balfe is in there from Outlander. She's a terrific actor. Also, our new Lois Lane, Rachel Brosnahan, is in this movie as well. So it was cool to see her. And this movie centers on a CIA computer specialist and analyst. His job wasn't clearly defined. He's essentially this incredible investigator that can dig into data. He's also got what looks like a touch of being on the spectrum as well. So he has some latent fears within him. We get to know that pretty early on in the story, and he's a little bit overly sensitive and reclusive, and he's hyper-focused on what he has to do and the tasks that he has at hand. And he's also a little bit hesitant around his wife, played by Rachel Brosnahan, who invites him on this trip, but he doesn't go, and then something tragic happens. And then the rest of the film is about how he grapples with his grief and his loss and what he wants to do with that. This is a revenge tale, and it's really a slick-looking picture. It brought back some fond memories of Enemy of the State. Anybody remember that classic Will Smith and Gene Hackman movie? I love that movie. Also some Bourne Identity stuff in there. There's some European stops where Rami Malek has to go and he faces some of the people that he wants to deal with. There's some cool training sequences that he has with Lawrence Fishburne, who is terrific in this. I really was happy to see him. He was very forceful. There are also some excellent character actors that we see in this, like Holt McCallany, who was terrific in Mindhunter. Super powerful actor, always fun to see on screen. Julianne Nicholson, who we've seen in Paradise, is in this as well. So the film is populated by some really competent, expert performers, and it's fun to watch them work in this. And I just like the production quality of it. It's got a sizzle to it. We're moving through all of these European destinations. There's also a realism attached to the remove that Rami Malek's character has. You see the shades of intelligence intelligence as he's trying to grapple with the emotions that he has and act on them. The movie definitely does employ some sleight of hand where Rami Malek's character does some stuff behind the scenes that are a shock to us as we watch them unfold, but it's all wrapped around the idea that he's very brilliant, much smarter than we even recognize, even though we've been following his story all the way through the film. There are some leaps of logic and some flights of fancy that you just have to kind of contend with, but it's a pretty cool picture for sure. And Jon Bernthal also appears in this, although he's a bit wasted in this. And the other thing that I thought about Jon Bernthal is that I always love watching him in whatever he's in, but he's one of those actors where it feels like he is the same guy in a lot of the stuff that he's in, but you really like him, and he always makes whatever he's in a little bit more fun, and that's true here too. The Amateur is cool. It's not going to be the most mind-blowing espionage action thriller you've ever seen in your life, but I think you're going to have a good time. I saw it on a great screen. It was huge, the audio was terrific, and I think that added to the cinematic escapism that the movie delivered. I'm going to give The Amateur a 7.5 out of 10. This has been a pretty amazing few months of television as well. I've got some TV reviews. Let's talk about Daredevil Born Again. I was so freaking blown away by the way that this show opened. It's incredible to have Charlie Cox and Vincent D'Onofrio headline this show again. They're such massive and cool and controlled personalities. It's awesome to watch them go toe-to-toe, and every sequence that we get with both of them on screen together is just a joy to behold. This show deals with a lot of kind of rebuilding the Daredevil mythology, because it's a liftoff years after what went down in the Netflix series, and it doesn't pull its punches literally or figuratively. It's incredibly violent. The show starts off with a huge shock that's unbelievable to witness. I literally was screaming when I watched the opening episode of this. And there's a lot of returning actors that you've seen within this series from Netflix. They're back. And there's also some new love interests and some new relationships that crop up. And the show does an excellent job at sort of grounding everybody and making this superhero and the crazy life that he has kind of feel realistic. And then there are flourishes of over-the-top insanity, like the main sort of serial killer bad guy that Daredevil faces off against named Muse. That was not as fulfilling as we have seen with other enemies and other plots that we've seen within Daredevil. Every time the character of Bullseye is on screen, in the previous iteration of Daredevil, and here again in Daredevil Born Again, the energy is amplified, the electricity is in the air. Wilson Bethel is amazing as this character, and he's a great foil for Daredevil. I wasn't huge on the plot with White Tiger in this season, and I wasn't huge on the plot with Muse, and I also really felt like he didn't don the suit. Daredevil didn't become Daredevil enough in this season. It also feels like the lead up to a lot more. It really feels like a building block, like we're starting over. And I'm cool with that. I love this universe. I love this world. I definitely want to see Daredevil and Kingpin and some of these other characters interconnected with the wider MCU in an organic way. The fact that we get the Punisher back in here again with Jon Bernthal, playing a slightly more amplified version of the character that he's always playing. That was cool, but again, it didn't feel quite as satisfying as the Punisher did in the Netflix show. It felt a little over the top, like he was screaming for no reason sometimes. But I still enjoyed it. I still really love the escapism. I love these characters. I love this location. I love that they shot in New York. You can feel it. I also felt like the cutaways that they had with all of the citizens of New York was a cool idea, but I don't know if it was sort of handled as well as it could have been. First of all, they should have had more of those faces and more of those voices, and all of those sort of TV-style interview clips just felt a little too overperformed. I felt like they should have added a lot more grounded and authentic feeling little pieces in there, and maybe some more mixed media. But I'm quibbling. It's amazing that we have Daredevil back. It's amazing that all of the performers that we knew from the Netflix show are back. I can't wait for Daredevil Born Again Season 2. I'm going to give this first season a 7.5. All right, let's move on and talk about White Lotus, which has been this huge cultural phenomenon. You can't be on social media at all without seeing some member of the cast or some plot line revealed or talked about or spoiled, which was pretty crappy. I really like this show. The first 2 seasons were mind-blowing, and I love the fact that the show deals with taking a cast to some exotic location and just creating the whole plot really in a hotel, in or around a luxury resort. And that's what happens here in Thailand. But I felt like this season season, even though the cast was game, I loved everybody's performance, especially Parker Posey. She's incredible in this season. But I felt like it kind of jumped the shark a little bit. It was a little too meandering. We really were left waiting for something to happen and to be meaningful. And there were a lot of silly sort of side sequences going to dances and nightclubs and boat parties and things. I know it's just to add the flavor and to sort of build a little bit of the tension because it's all of these rich people that deserve something heinous to interrupt their ridiculous lifestyles. And I get all that. And there are some nice threads connecting to previous storylines in The White Lotus, which I'm liking sort of the overarching plot of this series. And I can't wait for whatever happens next season. I'll tell you this, I was excited to watch every episode. I was looking forward to it. Every episode felt like a little bit of an escape, a little bit of a vacation to a beautiful location. But I wasn't as fulfilled watching this season, and every episode I was like, come on, let's go, let's get moving. But definitely standout performances from all of the actors. Walton Goggins is a blast to watch in whatever he's in. Sam Rockwell is amazing. I loved Amy Lou Wood. She was kind of a revelation in this season. Jason Isaacs is great in this season as well. It's fun, and it was really well made. It just didn't sort of deliver the dramatic and thematic punches that the previous White Lotus seasons have. I'm going to give this season of The White Lotus a 7 out of 10. All right, the last TV show that I'm going to talk about that I've watched recently, it's Reacher Season 3. Alan Ritchson is legit incredible, and I don't necessarily want him as Batman. I know he's campaigning to be the new Bruce Wayne Batman in James Gunn's DCU, but I really like him as his character, and I really enjoyed the Tom Cruise Reacher movies, but I think that Ritchson is such a weird hero to hang a show on. He's just so oversized, it's ludicrous, and he over-explains everything, and that can be a little bit tedious with the character. It's like he's explaining what he's going to do. He tells everybody. It's because they're showing the intelligence of the character, which I appreciate, but sometimes it kind of slows the action down and you don't really get a sense of looking into the eye, because he just says, I'm going to break your arm, I'm going to twist this, I'm going to throw this, I'm going to stab you in the face with this pencil, and you're going to be screaming for your mother. And then he does it, and you're like, holy shit, he just did all of what he just said. And that shock is cool, but it worked much better in that first season where it was like kind of an unknown. Everything was like unproven, untested, and it was a bit more of a shock. I also preferred the much more interesting side characters that first season delivered. Season 2 was a mess because it was like Reacher and his pals from the Justice League, and they just did a whole bunch. It was like an army. It was too many things to kind of keep track of. This season was a lot more focused. I liked Anthony Michael Hall's performance as this overprotective father that gets caught up in some terrible things. I like the kid that Reacher has to kind of work with and figure out. I liked all the caper stuff of how they infiltrate the bad guys. I thought that was pretty fun. But the standout from this season, obviously, is that fight with Olivier Richters, this giant of a hulking dude who was in Indiana Jones and Dial of Destiny. That fight is why you're watching this season. Like, it's so awesome. It's so big. It's so over the top. It's so grisly and so well performed by these two action stars. Like, they're terrific in that fight. But there is quite a bit of routine, practical, kind of filling the time kind of vibes throughout the rest of the season. It felt almost like a procedural cop show in some places. It got a little bit dull. I guess what I'm hoping for with Reacher is just some zanier characters that pop off the screen, and not everybody's just dour and bleak and like projecting uber bad guy that Reacher has to go in and kill. There needs to be a little bit more flavor and a little bit more sinister kind of menace and mystery, I think, with this Reacher series. And so hopefully that's a part of wherever they're taking us with season 4. I did enjoy season 3, don't get me wrong. There's definitely some nice little pieces in there, but I don't think it holds up to the best that the series has hit so far with season 1. I'm going to give Reacher season 3 a 7.5 out of 10. All right, and finally, my last little bit of rundown news here is that last week I was invited to go to ILM's ribbon cutting ceremony in their new studio, their new offices in downtown Vancouver, and it was really freaking beautiful. Obviously, this is a company that's on hallowed ground. They've worked on so many of our favorite movies and television shows, all kinds of Star Wars and Jurassic Park and Transformers, a lot of Percy Jackson and the Olympians. The Vancouver studio actually started as a pop-up from ILM, which is based in the Bay Area. They said, well, let's folks try something out in Vancouver back in 2012 or 2013, and then that's exploded. And so now hundreds of people work out of the Vancouver headquarters, and they are working on some of the biggest projects you can imagine, The Mandalorian and Andor, and just all kinds of incredible things. So we got to talk with some compositors and some people that work on lighting and texture details, and they were showing off some of the processes that they take to put all of their pieces together. And something that I found very fascinating to learn is that they actually don't have hard drives on the computers that are at their desks. Those are all networked to mainframe servers in California, because these are incredibly expensive properties. And so everybody logs in, does all their work, and everything is saved off-site, which I thought was a pretty big deal. So nobody could ever walk away with any of the IP that is being manufactured out of ILM Vancouver. I imagine that's sort of commonplace for every effects house out there, but I had never really encountered that before. And the other thing that I thought was pretty interesting is I asked one of the ILM folks that was taking us on the tour if AI was being employed at all within the work that ILM Vancouver was doing, and I got a very frank no, not at all. And the reason is they can't confirm the copyright on any of the AI stuff that might work. And I asked, so you're not training AI on the work that you're doing internally? And they said no. So at this current time, they're really focused on professionals that know the tools, that know how to do this, and I think probably have a lot of fundamental art knowledge, and they come from all kinds of backgrounds. A lot of people from schools like the Vancouver Film School and stuff are working in studios like ILM. They're hiring artists, they're hiring people that know what to do, and it's not going to be about sort of learning how to prompt, at least not yet with visual effects. I imagine that is a hot topic in the film world, but it was very impressive to see all of those artists collected and to be celebrated like that, and to see their incredibly cool space. Super proud that Vancouver has become such a big hub for incredible visual effects. ILM is here and all kinds of other studios are here. The fact that the Spider-Verse movies are made at the Sony animation studios that are in Vancouver fills me with pride as well. Vancouver's a pretty incredible city for all of the creative people that live here and work here with video games and movies and TV shows, and yes, big time into visual effects, and I'm so happy that I got invited to see a whole bunch of them at ILM Vancouver. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for the rundown today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back again soon with some new reviews, interviews, and news for you guys. Thanks for hitting that subscribe button, hitting that like button if you enjoyed the video, and for sharing this with your friends out there. We will see you soon, and until then, play forever.